Hollywood. The place where millionaires go to be pretentious assholes who make films for millions of dollars, but then spend half of that on some stuck-up celebrity golden child for their film. It's a place where half of blockbuster films are made with CGI, thanks to some dorks and their computers.
Police officers from 9 forces are being drafted in to help with security at Olympic venues following the failure.
So let me take you here. Yep, this is real work, studio production, where a real team work all year long, busting ass to help bring us the news, help poor buggers win some cash, and even help us watch those Hollywood golden children in their talk shows. Studio production has a group of people working in sync, well, mostly in sync, to produce shows for the viewers at home. The team consists of a dozen or so people, and they all have their own roles to play, ranging from cameramen, presenters, producers, directors, floor managers, sound mixers, and visual mixers. A studio with a budget can make room for more roles, such as runners. So let's start with the cameramen, who have a key role in production, for obvious reasons of course. Usually there are 3 cameramen, each on their own camera ready to take orders through headsets from upstairs on what shot to achieve next. They also have a shot list to run off in case the director messes up, which can be often when you aren't working with professionals, but yeah, a cameraman will capture everything you see on your TV at home.
Could see a little bit of rain today, which is great. Okay, we have a problem with that camera there.
Now, the presenter is the personality of the whole production, and is the only person in the team to be in front of the camera. He or she will introduce the show, interview guests, or simply tell the news. They will look into a prompter which will have a script for them to read off, and most good presenters can do this perfectly. But there will always be some who will mess this up.
Eyewitness News Mornings. Well, that was awkward.
The producer will be in charge of the show.
That was good. That was very good. So once we
Decide what's good, decide what's final. Decide who's messing up, and on the day, decide to sit in the gallery room comfortably, watch the whole show play out before yelling how shit everything just went.
Stand by, coming to studio in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue music.
Now, the director is also in charge, just not in charge of the producer. He or she will tell everyone what to do. Sometimes what he or she wants isn't what's right, but hey, they're the director, so you just deal with it. They call out the shot list from the gallery on the day to the cameraman and cooperate between the floor manager. As the director, it's going to be hard to keep things running smoothly, so try not to break into an outburst like this guy.
An amazing close call for a group of children caught in the twister's path. 130 kids were inside their daycare center in the town of Windsor when the tornado hit. NBC's Leanne Gregg is there with more. How are those kids doing, Leanne?
All right, cut to, God damn it, get that dumb bitch.
Leanne, can you hear me?
Fucking A, get her on
right. She can't hear me, so we'll work
okay,
to get that fixed,
not,
the little
right,
audio glitch there. But I can tell you, we saw this coming into us yesterday. Roofs ripped off. We saw devastated buildings throughout the town of Windsor. We know, here was the video that we saw live yesterday, little kids being carried out. Now I hear that we've had our audio problems fixed with Leanne Gregg. I was just talking about the daycare out there with those children, Leanne. Are they all okay?
They also get to shout cut at the end of each take. Sat next to the director is usually the visual mixer, and he or she will change the shots on screen for the show, mixing each shot into the next to make sure it all looks visually pleasing for the viewer at home. If they mess up, they could end up mixing a medium close-up from camera 1 with another medium close-up from camera 3, and that's just no good. Audio mixers will sit at this desk, and he or she will check the audio from the presenter and the guest's microphones. If music is used in the show, then they need to make sure it sounds good, and they also need to make sure the audio levels are consistent throughout the show's running time, without any hiccups. And now for the studio floor manager, a role that I believe can keep the show held together, or can help the show fall flat on its face. They must be able to run around the studio floor, telling everyone what's needed from upstairs. They also need to make sure that any guests or presenters are seen to, provide them with a microphone and check that it works, provide them with any drinks or snacks, and make sure they're feeling really comfortable. He or she must look after all the cables and make sure they're all seen to, and are safe for the rest of the floor to traverse without an accident. A floor manager must make sure that everything is running smoothly in the studio and will count down the times in which the show will go live, from 1 minute to half a minute, and then a countdown from 10 seconds, while upon reaching 3 is silent as the show is about to start.
Then should we say stand by in 10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
There's a monitor on the studio floor that the floor manager can look at to make sure the show is looking good from a TV screen perspective. The key to being a floor manager is cooperation. To make sure you can cooperate with the rest of the team upstairs and on the floor, you need to be loud and you need to be heard, while also obeying orders from the director and producer in the gallery.
Just some over here, Layla. On camera 3.
Layla, on camera 3 there is extra headset.
Yeah, that's what we
There has to be pin drop silence on the studio floor. Except the performers, nobody is allowed to speak on the studio floor. But still, there is one person who communicates with the people on the floor. He is the floor manager.
Now that old chap has helped clear things up.
But there's a very important person out there that you don't see that we rely on.
Stand by, guys.
They mainly work in the shadows of the studio lights, often darting between cameras to give those of us in front of the camera our marching orders. You can think of them as the quarterback in the studio, making sure we look at the correct camera and inform us of where we need to stand and what news stories have been dropped or moved within the rundown of the newscast.
Now I'm going to talk about some of those hand gestures that the floor manager has to do that I mentioned earlier. The first hand gesture is to show that we have half a minute before we go live. This second hand gesture shows that we have 15 seconds before we go live. And then we make a countdown from 10, making sure that we go silent on 3, and then waving our arm like this in front of the camera to show that we are live.
Good afternoon.
I love that. So she wakes out like that, and then you're just there going. Did you?
A surgeon killing in Israel, the US accuses both sides of terrorism.
All in all, I believe studio production is good, honest work for those who are in a hard-working team. Even if that team hate each other, you all must come together and work in one big, mighty family to make sure the show is running on time and can get what you need for that day. Because the world needs the news, and without the studio team, you ain't gonna get the news, I'm afraid. Sometimes when you work studio production, you gotta do the dirty jobs too, because how else is anyone gonna make those shows such as Jeremy Kyle for the whole world to see?
I'm not on there to joke around. It's not a joke.
I'm with you, mate. But
seriously, I'm not a joke.
No. What was the specific sexual smell?
Basically, it smelled like sex, isn't it? That.
Right. You say, I also caught her touching a guy's private parts with her feet.
Yeah.
Now, again, obviously, you know, they're a little bit confused because you walk down the road with your girlfriend. It's not many women who get their feet and go like that.
Stay though.
Right, but this is in bed.